Hello, welcome back. Take your seats, and you virtual folks at home, you can also take your seats. Welcome back to our next session. And as you're taking your seats, I'll start talking. The next session is very exciting, Dimensional Shift, Teaching Machines to See in 2D and 3D. Boy, last session was very wild and woolly with the fantastic questions that came in. I remind you on Slido, keep the Slido going, we're now on Caltech 3, session 3. Our last session of the morning features one of Caltech's newest faculty members, Dr. Georgia Gyoksary, Assistant Professor of Computing and Mathematical Sciences and Electrical Engineering. Gyoksary earned her bachelor's degree at the National Technical University of Athens, in Athens, Greece, where she worked with Petros Maragos, followed by a PhD from UC Berkeley, where she was advised by Jitendra Malik. From 2016 to 2022, she was a research scientist at FAIR. In 2019, Dr. Gyoksary was named one of 30 influential women advancing AI by the Rework blog, and in 2020, she was nominated for VentureBeat's Women in AI Awards. In the gist, the objective of artificial intelligence is to develop computational systems that can operate at a level similar to human intellect, and that's been a lot in the news recently. ChatGPT is one example of these systems capable of formulating and responding to intricate queries using natural language. Georgia will delve into the topic of visual intelligence, and the creation of computational models designed to interpret the world through images, visual inputs with both 2- and 3-dimensional representations. It's going to be an amazing talk. So please give a warm hand to Dr. Georgia Gyoksary.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much for being here, and welcome back to Caltech. I hope you're enjoying your day. Thank you for the wonderful intro. My name is Georgia. I just joined the Caltech faculty this January, and I work on computer vision. And specifically, what I am passionate about and what I want to achieve through my work is to teach machines to see, just like we humans do. And so I want to start my talk by pointing out how brilliant we are. I don't know if you remember to say that to yourselves, but we humans are the pinnacle of intelligence. Okay, this was not funny. This is true. We are. And vision, which is our ability to see, has certainly played a role toward that achievement. Very early on, before we're able to do anything really useful, we are starting to understand the world by just looking around. And very quickly after that, we are using our intelligence already to solve problems. We start by solving simple problems like stacking cubes and toys into big towers, and very quickly, or hopefully quickly enough, we are able to navigate this very complex world of ours, like for example, when we're driving around a big city and a busy city without causing catastrophes. These are only a few examples of our visual intelligence, and it's really tremendous that we are able to do this. And the big question is, can we actually build machines that do exactly the same? This is the question that I'm trying to answer with my work, and I've been working on this for now over 13 years, and it's been exciting and a very challenging problem to try to attack. So in this quest for building machine perception, the first question that a lot of us researchers in this field wanted to answer is whether we can build computational models that can recognize objects and images. This is the very basic skill of recognition. So this is a very easy task for you. Look at this image. I am very certain that you've never been in this scene of this kitchen before. However, you have absolutely no difficulty of predicting what objects are in this scene. So can we make machines do this? And of course, I'm here. So the answer to that is yes. This is one of the problems that we have achieved. We have built computational models that can recognize objects in these novel scenes that the model has never seen before, and yet it's able to recognize objects and even understand poses of humans as they interact with that scene. And I'm going to let this play because it's indicative of what we can do today in computer vision. So the model that the output that you just saw was produced by this model that me and my colleagues built that's called MaskR-CNN. So MaskR-CNN is a neural network. You can think about it as a complex function that takes in a single image as input, and it outputs the desired target. In this particular case, it's objects, their names, and also their localization information, their silhouettes. And it does so for any image. You can input any image, no matter what that image is, and no matter how many objects there are in that image, and it will be able to localize them and also name them. So MaskR-CNN was a solution to a problem that was puzzling us for years, and achieving this was actually a significant milestone, to the point where is actually featured on computer vision textbooks because of this great achievement. And its model is so simple. This is what we take pride in. It's a simple model that can be extended to tackle more tasks, such as human pose estimation. And it works so well that it works frame by frame robustly. So here you see outputs frame by frame of this video without any temporal smoothing. The model also led to more advances in visual recognition. For example, beyond object localization, such as recognizing human-object interactions, where the goal is not to only detect objects, but also the human and the action that is being performed as a verb. And again, doing so in the wild for many action types and many interactions. MaskR-CNN, as I said, is a neural network, and it learns its connectivity weights through processing images, through learning from images. The genesis of neural nets is actually attributed to neurologists, cognitive psychologists, and neuroscientists, way before computer scientists like me got to adopt them and work with them. It started with Hubel and Wiesel in '62 in their very famous cat experiment, to Fukushima and Caltech's very own John Hopfield in the early '80s, which then Yann LeCun was inspired by later that decade and figured out how to learn, how to update the connectivity, the weights of these neural networks by learning from data. Now, this combination of learning neural nets from large data set is dominating the field of AI today. I am very certain that you've all heard of ChatGPT. So ChatGPT is nothing else but a big neural network, over 500 billion parameters, trained on very large data, text corpuses of over 1 trillion tokens. Tokens are words. It follows exactly the same paradigm as our computer vision models. You take a neural network and you train it on data. And I know that there's a lot of speculation and a lot of discussion around ChatGPT and its abilities. But one thing it's very good at, it's composition. So it takes two concepts that could be very far apart, and it figures out how to merge them and elaborate on them. So when I was making this presentation, I spent a lot of time having fun with ChatGPT. So I asked ChatGPT to write a poem about the seminar day organized by the Caltech Alumni Association in the style of Edgar Allan Poe. So I'm fairly certain that Edgar Allan Poe has never written a poem about the seminar day. I'm fairly certain about this. And yet ChatGPT had absolutely no problem spitting out a very large poem about this. So let's read it just to see what it says. So it says, "Once upon a noontide dreary, scholars gathered weak and weary." That does sound like Edgar Allan Poe, but it has his sad, the sad way that he had to write behind his poems. "In the halls of famed Caltech, where the wise and learned dwell." Okay, and then a lot more so, there was actually many, many lines. I had to actually crop it because it was so long. This is phenomenal. This is great. With all of us computer scientists that were working with these models, I work from the computer vision side, but seeing a large language model like this perform this well was actually a fantastic achievement that we thought we could never see in such a short amount of time. And so excited by these capabilities of these large language models, what a lot of researchers are now speculating is that, well, why don't we combine this model, a large language model, with vision models like Mask-Rest CNN, so that now we can actually ask more questions about images to see what can we achieve in this space of intelligence. And one such model is Flamingo. It's from DeepMind, from Google DeepMind, and it combines a large language model like the one behind ChatGPT with a vision model similar in design to Mask-Rest CNN. And what it promises is that now you can ask any questions about the image and it will answer it, which means that it has built this intelligence about the world through seeing from images. And so I want to show you this example because I want to make a point about this. So let's take this example. This is an example from the internet. And so I asked Flamingo to first tell me what this is. Very simple. It says it's the departure board at an airport. Correct. That is true. But obviously, our world is a lot more than that. And what this image shows, it shows a lot more than that. And what these models promise is intelligence. So I wanted to see, well, can we do more? OK, so I asked, which way is gate 413? To the right. Well, that's not quite true. But maybe it was confused. You know, I want to give it benefit of a doubt. So then I asked, which gates are straight ahead? A, B, C, D. OK, thank you for the alphabet, but that's not really the answer. So what I wanted to say here is that despite popular belief, and what journalists out there say, and I'm sure that you are reading some of these articles, these models are not quite that smart yet. But what is certainly true is that we have made progress in understanding our world through images. What Mask-Rest CNN produces, that the fact that it can localize all of these objects so well, but even this combination of this union of these models with large language model and understanding the scene types, that is a milestone. But it's a rudimentary skill. If we want to claim that we're trying to push the frontiers of visual intelligence and understand the world through images, we need to do more than just understanding the presence of objects in the image. And one important attribute that Mask-Rest CNN, which is my own work, and also what all of these new fancy models that New York Times writes about constantly, is that they actually are not able to capture one important aspect of the world, the fact that it's three-dimensional. I don't know how many of you own a Tesla. Teslas are very popular with us tech people. We love them because they have this amazing software, that's the autopilot, that promises to be able to drive the car around. So you're hoping that this autopilot that can drive your car has an understanding of the world in 3D. If your autopilot only understood that there is a car somewhere in its view, but didn't know exactly where that car was, that is a useless feature. I want to be able to understand not just where objects are in my 2D grid, but where they are in the real 3D world, if we want to build an autonomous system that can navigate the world the same way that we do. And so, well, there is a lot of talk about how to build this artificial general intelligence and how to push the frontiers of computational intelligence. I argue that there's no such thing as intelligence if we can't build machines that perceive in 3D. And this is the focus of my work right now, building off of the achievements that myself and my colleagues have achieved in the past years. What I hope to do is build models that perceive in 3D from just 2D images. And of course, this is a very challenging task because our world is so complex and diverse. Beautiful, but complex, which means it's going to be a challenging computational task to achieve it. So in this direction, I have dedicated several of my years in trying to find what are the best solutions in this space. And I'm going to show you a few of these projects that I think are very promising. So what you see here is the output of a computer vision model that takes images as input and understands the objects in 3D space. So this is a model that we call CubeRCNN, which was published a few months ago, and I'll be presenting at CVPR this June. And this is one model that can tackle all of these scenes and all of these objects with a unified architecture. So CubeRCNN is also a neural network, and it inputs images, and it outputs these 3D objects. For any objects that might be present in the images, something that I do not know beforehand, my model needs to figure that out. But unlike MaskRCNN, the previous work that I showed you, where MaskRCNN only detects objects in 2D, it has the view of a world as if it was a flat 2D world through the image grid. CubeRCNN is able to understand objects in 3D. It predicts how far they are from the camera and also their size and dimensions in 3D space. So this is a very exciting model, and seeing it work has generated a lot of enthusiasm, in particular about new applications that we can build in autonomous systems, augmented and mixed reality. So case in point, we wanted to stretch test CubeRCNN to see how well it would work in any sort of video footage of our world. And so what you see here is a video of a human, a person, walking around the apartment wearing an augmented reality device. So it's these nerdy-looking glasses that the human is wearing and is walking around their apartment. So this is a data set. So CubeRCNN was trained on single images. It has not seen videos, and has certainly not seen augmented reality captures. But then we apply our CubeRCNN on a video like this, and we're able to predict and also track the objects that are visible in the scene as the human walks through that scene. And so this is the first time that we can do this, and it has led to a lot of potential applications for augmented reality that we're very excited to build in order to build more assistive technology that can help us navigate the world today. However, and pushing more in the space of 3D, CubeRCNN is able to predict these objects in 3D, but it represents these objects as cuboids. And this is a crude approximation, and an approximation that is okay and that is enough for a lot of applications that we want to build in the autonomous space. Navigation with robots would not need more information than that. Presumably, being able to predict these crude objects, 3D cuboids as objects, would be certainly enough. But what CubeRCNN, of course, is missing, and what I'm trying to imply right now, is that it's missing the fact that objects have 3D shapes. So these are detailed 3D geometry that describes any objects around us, and that we would love to be able to predict in addition to just their attributes in 3D. So now the question, of course, comes and is, can we predict 3D object shapes from images? This seems like a very hard task. We are seeing 2D images, and we're asked to predict detailed 3D geometry. And before diving into this and figuring out solutions in this space, we had to ask a few questions. So the first question is, how do we even represent 3D shapes, 3D geometry computationally? We humans don't have a representation of 3D geometry, we just perceive it. But our models, our computational models, need to be able to represent them computationally. And then, of course, is how are we going to fuse and marry these 3D representations with learning, and learning with neural networks? And so to help answer these questions, we developed this deep learning library, which introduces efficient ways to represent 3D shapes, such as 3D meshes. And I want to show you this nice video. I will never miss an opportunity to show cute dolphins that represent 3D meshes. They're nothing else but 3D graphs. But how to efficiently computationally store them and use them with deep learning is unclear, and there are many various choices out there. And PyTorch3D is a tool and a library that will help accelerate 3D deep learning research with providing these solutions to researchers. And in addition to 3D representations, we also provide a very critical operation that bridges the gap between 3D geometry and 2D images. And that is the idea of rendering. Now, rendering is a common operation in graphics. It takes a 3D scene composed of the geometry, the texture, that's the appearance of the object, and camera, and it renders it to a 2D image. You see outputs of rendering every day. When you're watching a movie, or if you're playing video games, you and your kids playing video games, rendering is what you see constantly when you're watching these videos. However, rendering is not differentiable. So I can't go back from my image to my 3D geometry. But we're making it differentiable by solving some very interesting mathematical engineering puzzles to allow gradients to flow back from the image to 3D. And so now, with differentiable rendering in place and having computational 3D representations of our objects in geometry, we are positioned to actually try to solve this problem of understanding 3D geometry from images. And in this project with my wonderful student Shubham, we did exactly that. We developed an algorithm, an optimization approach that takes a few sparse views of an object and is able to output the 3D shape of that object. The algorithm is very simple, of course, after you solve the puzzles that I just described. So given that you have three different views of an object, and you start from an initial shape that's very far off from the true shape, you use the existing views to update the shape and predict the texture. And from the prediction, you actually compare it to the other view, the additional view that you have. And through the process of differentiable rendering and flowing gradients back, you're able to update the shape so that it conforms to all of the views of the object. This is a very big picture view of the approach, but more details, if you're interested, I'm happy to answer in our discussion. And so with this method, you can reconstruct any objects of any complexity. Like, for example, in this example right here, that it's only using 8 views to reconstruct it. 8 views is not a lot of views to understand geometry. And this shape right here. And so we've used this approach to help businesses with products. So someone that wants to sell their guitar and has only 4 views, we've lifted it to 3D so that users can better see it and look at it and presumably want to get it. And we've also reconstructed statues in the wild from, I believe this is somewhere close to the Bay Area. But this approach was using many images, 4 to 8, to go to 3D. So now the question is pushing more forward towards understanding our world in 3D space. Can we do this from only one image? Now this is actually a learning problem because we need to predict a rich output, the 3D geometry, from impartial observations, just a single 2D image, which does not reveal the full geometry of the objects. So what we do is that we resort to learning. We train a large model, and we train it on large data. But now our model has to be 3D aware, so we have to design it so that it can capture the 3D information from 2D images. And our data is also 3D data, and we have to process it accordingly in tune with deep learning. So I will not cover how we do this, but I just want to show you some results on some objects that we applied our model to, which are everyday objects. For example, this kid's backpack, where we can now reconstruct this geometry from just a single view that you see on the left. From captures from our very own iPhone of objects that we have. This is a toy from my colleague. It's Spyro, if you're a Nintendo fan. You probably like to see it. I love Spyro, and we can reconstruct this geometry from just a single image. And we can either apply this to imaginary objects, like objects generated by DALL-E. DALL-E is a generative AI approach to synthesizing images from only a text description. So this is, we said, a marshmallow in the shape of a cat, or something like this. It is a marshmallow, it delivered, it's a marshmallow in the shape of a cat, and now we can reconstruct it in 3D. And a lot more fun examples of that sort, but the point that I'm trying to make is building generalizable computer vision models that work in 3D from just a single image. And I'm nearing the end of my talk, and I hope that I gave you a good overview of the journey of visual intelligence and where we're going with it next. So my work is trying to push the boundaries of perception in 2D and perception in 3D. But I'm also interested in pushing perception ad extrema. Current solutions in computer vision, including the ones that I mentioned here and the ones that are exciting the community outside of worldwide, actually make an assumption that we can only learn about the world with hundreds of millions of training examples. But we humans are an example of how that's not true. I can learn with SV as one example, and I'm able to generalize very well and navigate this world and only see from very few positives. So how can we build systems that learn with that efficiency? This is something that we have not unlocked yet and might require a huge shift in how we're approaching learning, maybe move away from neural nets and use different architectures, different learning paradigms, but it's an important aspect of the problem to always have in mind. Our current solutions are nowhere near the efficiency that we humans learn with. And I'm also very excited to be at Caltech, because this is a place where we can apply some of the results of these achievements to important problems. I'm working with our fantastic faculty here that are building robots. We have collaborations with a cast trying to build robots for this world and also the moon, where here perception is important. If we want to send robots to the moon, we're not going to be able to collect training examples. We're not going to send a robot at first to collect a few images and then train a model. That's ridiculous. We need to have these models work out of the box in new terrains and new domains, which means that we need to push perception even further. And I'm also very interested in applying some of these models for the good of our world, and especially applying them for ecology, where there's a huge need of applying advanced perception models to understand conservation and other such attributes and aspects of the changes that happen in our world right now that we cannot quite foresee, but we'll be able to quantify. And I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you. Oh.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, and thank you for your questions. Is how to teach computers to see like humans the right question to be asking? Or should we be asking what is the best way to see?
That's a fantastic question. The latter. So we are inspired by what we can do, but our solutions might not be exactly the solutions that we are deploying right now in our brain. First of all, we are not sure how we are learning and how we do see and how we do understand. So this is also a very active topic of research. But I also believe that the tools that we have right now in our computers are not quite in tune with how our brain is wired and working. So while we might not see the solutions that happen exactly the same, and we will likely not, we should be inspired by all the things that we can do well so that we know what we want to achieve. So humans are used as the benchmark, as is the light at the end of the tunnel, but how we're going to get there is what we're here to do.
Very interesting. It sets up our next question. Good ones by Dean Dogger, if I've said your name correctly, here or in the virtual world. Can the biology, Dean, are you here? There, thank you. Can the biology of other species, such as dolphins' echolocation and navigation of water, help us teach computers to recognize the world?
Yeah, and absolutely. And to some degree we are. Actually, we are not just limited to passive sensors like RGB. So first of all, humans, we have two eyes, so we have some sort of stereo, though we are able to perceive depth even with one eye. But how we are inspired by how other species learn from a variety of ways, from the kind of sensor that we're designing and that we're using. LiDAR is such an example, all the way to algorithms and solutions. And again, an active topic of research that we're trying to be inspired by.
It gets a little metaphysical here, so I'm going to gang a couple of questions together. Do you think artificial intelligence could create a new dimension within our realm? And one that was trending for a while was, is the multiverse real?
Okay.
It's Caltech, so you're going to get the mind-blowing ones, yes.
Okay, such a loaded question. I am not a big fan of the conspiracy theories, quote unquote, that I see around me, that I see from journalists that are trying to create this sense of fear around AI. I don't know if you saw today, we're nowhere near anything sort of quite dangerous happening yet. These models have a very low bar of what they can achieve. It's great that they can achieve it, but it's not quite as threatening in my view yet. So I would say that I'm not sure if we are there yet. I believe that our current solutions will not get us to a place where anyone should feel scared. If anything else, is the best time to feel optimistic about potentially solving for some important problems that can help with the problems that we currently have and how to solve them. And now, is the multiverse the metaverse? Like, I'm not sure.
I think it was the multiverse, but you can take it any way you want.
I need a beer to talk about this.
Perfect.
I'm not sure.
See, we were going to switch from coffee to beer in the afternoon. I love that. Absolutely. And Jean, one more question from you, which I think is in terms of intention. How do you prevent unintentional cultural biases from accidentally bias training of your neural net or machine learning system?
Yeah, I mean, bias is a huge issue. Whenever you are learning from data, you're running into, you have this problem of, am I biasing my model? So we want to make sure, and when we're developing these models and we're collecting data set, that we are actually covering the distribution of the world, and we are able to have a good representation of everything and everyone around us. But there's another bias that comes in, that is, who are these researchers like me that are developing these algorithms? So even that introduces a bias that it would be great to think about and resolve, and that is why we have these amazing efforts at Caltech where we're trying to take researchers from all around the world and bring them here and teach them so that we can develop things together, and then they can go back wherever they are and they can deploy these solutions to their specific problems. So it's a bigger question that it's something that I'm thinking about almost daily and how to work on. It's going to be part of us as academics to make sure that we have the best guardrails in place to unbias our models.
So this question was low, and then now it trended. So Bob Schmeichel, Bob, are you here? Okay, or is in the virtual metaverse, or here, yes, yeah. Okay. And it's a puzzler. Can computers discern between mannequins and humans?
Yes.
Wait a minute, more.
They can.
Explain.
So they can, if you provide the right training examples of what a mannequin is and what a human is. Computer vision models are fantastic at discerning texture. And it turns out that mannequins have actually a much simpler texture than humans. It's very easy to make the distinctions. Now, if the mannequin industry decides that it's going to build very human-like mannequins, then perhaps it's no longer going to be the case.
Very interesting. Okay, well, and it's Caltech. You're going to get this, so answer any way you wish.
Okay.
What is your favorite AI joke?
Oh, God.
You can think about that.
I also need a beer to think about this.
AI and beer, we love that. But I think the Edgar Allan Poe was itself brilliant enough of a joke. Okay. So do you anticipate, this is a little more technical, do you anticipate 3D computer vision to make radar/LiDAR obsolete for autonomous systems?
Yeah. I would say they're complementary. So any sensor right now that so LiDAR and radar data, the sensors, allow you to have some sort of measurement of 3D by pointing rays and measuring when these rays are coming back. And of course, as you can imagine, these are not always reliable, do not always work very well. So software goes hand in hand with hardware. So we're building models that can take advantage of sensors, but can also reliably make predictions when these sensors are not available. So I would say that the answer is both. We want to leverage sensors, but we also want to build complementary software that can work even without that. And there's always a question of energy. So I showed you this AR headset, right? If we want to build assistive technology that can answer questions, you can't pack it with a lot of hardware. First of all, it's going to start burning. So you don't want anything to burn near your face. So you have a limit of what sensors you can actually pack in sensors so that they're safe for humans. So going all the way to advanced sensors might not always be possible.
Yeah, I think, and Eduard Kotelenc, are you here, Eduard? Okay. We're in the multiverse. What kind of processing load is being applied when the system is being asked to go from 2D to 3D? What is the computational growth seen?
The computational what?
Growth.
Growth. Yes. Oh, so there's what happens and how much computation is needed. So What happens exactly? So this is actually getting a little bit more technical, but in order to make a model happen that goes from 2D to 3D, you need to start fusing ideas of signal processing and 3D geometry and figuring out how you can learn in both of these representations well. And this is where it's a very interesting problem, not only from a philosophical conceptual perspective to work on it, but also from a mathematical and engineering perspective, how to facilitate that and how to make it happen. And because now you are going from this 2D to this 3D space, you are faced with this curse, the curse of dimensionality, where now your 3D space is vast, so you need your model to be able to learn how to make very good predictions while having all these infinite choices of possible predictions. And to make this and to constrain this is where we use sophisticated approaches of learning and learning from data to make it happen.
What is the most, this is another metaphysical one, what is the most difficult thing to render realistically in 3D? Water, clouds, hair?
This is a great question, and this is where there was this other question before about how we humans learn versus not. Like, when you're trying to represent the world in 3D, you are deviating significantly from how we humans learn. And how we represent 3D, actually, we kind of don't know how we understand 3D. And yet we, as computer scientists now, are faced with having to make a decision. I am not a fan of being religious, so I like to have all of my options open and have a variety of 3D representations that have their pros and cons, either by representing the world as a continuous, like, smoke, where nothing is rigid, nothing is unpenetratable, everything is penetratable, but then it's a learning algorithm to figure out the level, or making explicit representations like meshes and point clouds and using them to represent the world. It's an open question of research, and I'm happy to discuss more. It's the things that we discuss with students today. What's the best choice? But the best choice right now is to be aware of all of them and use them for the application that you want to build.
Well, dialing back, let's see, to ChatGPT, for instance. I mean, there's certainly these accounts of, like, the Edgar Allan Poe was charming. We've seen sort of accounts where people get involved with the ChatGPT and ask too many questions and ask them, are you evil? And it says, yes, I am. Do you think ChatGPT is the face of the future? However you want.
Do I think ChatGPT is the face of the future? So what I didn't present today is about 200 slides of what GPT cannot do, from things that are extremely simple that if I showed you, you would just not believe it. So I do think that there are some aspects that ChatGPT might be very useful for. This compositionality, which is its strongest right now attribute, is something that I think we'll see may perhaps penetrate the world in one way or another in some industries. But no, it's not going to be the face of the reality, because right now it's not trustworthy and it's not reliable. It actually makes a lot of stuff up. Edgar Allan Poe is an example. And for a lot of the things that we humans care about, we cannot use it. If I write a paper and I write it with ChatGPT, it's going to say give me a lot of citations of papers that really do not exist. So to me, it's actually quite useless right now. But where this technology will take and how industry will try to build on it, I think it remains to be seen.
I think we have time for maybe 2 more questions. One is, many of your examples are man-made environments. That kitchen reminded me of an IKEA kitchen, I have to say. All of these objects have a lot of edges and cues regarding direction, size, and orientation. How do these algorithms work literally in the wild, in nature?
In nature, yeah. So in the wild, in the wild means different things. So I consider these results in the wild, meaning that I don't actually constrain what kind of scene. I don't tell the model, I'm going to only show you kitchens right now, and so that's what you need to say. I just show it one image, and it has to figure out whether it's man-made or not. That's certainly true, and there were some plants in there, but that's correct. So the man-made world is a world where there is a lot of straight lines and a lot of orthogonal structures, which do not quite exist in nature and forests. And this is where we are actually a little bit behind, as in we actually don't have enough representation of these type of scenes right now in our models. A lot of the emphasis on computer vision applications are certainly around man-made scenes, but certainly the same solutions can be applied to nature if we had data that represented that domain.
Last question, and just noting that there's a shout out to Carver Mead, his work on artificial vision with Misha Mahawald back in the late 80s, so that's the Caltech lineage. Anonymous asks, may I buy you a beer just to answer those questions?
Why not?
And I don't know if that was a chatbot who wrote that either. We can't know.
Who knows?
It could be.
I would have a beer with a chatbot too if it was just the questions. Sure, I'm happy to chat more. You can also find me at my office. Anytime you're about at Caltech, I'm happy to answer any hot questions and hot takes about the AI field, certainly.
Thank you so much, Dr. Georgia Gyaksari.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, and thanks to all of you here in Beckman and online for keeping Seminar Day lively this morning. I would say noontide dreary, but that was Edgar Allan Poe, and he didn't go to Caltech. So we're going to change it to noontide cheery as we break for lunch. Lunch is almost ready, but just for a few minutes, please stay with us, those in the auditorium and everyone online, because we're about to unveil the 2023 Distinguished Alumni Award recipients. And there's going to be, woo, so exciting. And there's going to be a special 6-minute video premiere. So now I'm really delighted to bring to stage the gentleman who leads the CAA team responsible for bringing this day back to you, in-person Seminar Day, and making it possible for those of you around the world. I don't know, I'm just waving to around the world in the metaverse. So please give a warm hand for Ralph Amos, the CEO of the Caltech Alumni Association.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? Great presentations, right? Good. Well, I am delighted to stand before you. I am your alumni director, and every day we wake up and think about how do you best engage 26,000 graduates around the planet, right? So there's a lot of us out there, and this notion, these kind of signature days are a part of that work, and there's a lot of beautiful things that are coming. But it's my honor now to introduce the class of 2023 Distinguished Alumni Award recipients, and they are Dr. Neda Ngeta, PhD in 82, Electrical Engineering, H. Nedwell Ramsey Professor of Electrical and Systems Engineering at the University of Pennsylvania, Dr. Karen Maples, BS 76, Biology, Obstetrician and Gynecologist, Kaiser Permanente, Dr. Eugene Myers, BS 75, Mathematics Director, Max Planck Institute of Molecular Cell Biology and Genetics in Germany. And finally, Dr. Kenneth Susslich, BS 74, Chemistry, Martin T. Schmidt Professor of Chemistry, Emeritus, University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. Please join me in congratulating this year's class of Distinguished Alumni Award recipients. If you didn't already know, this is the highest award that Caltech bestows upon our alumni. And we do this annually since 1966. And we have a lot of these people out there really helping extend the brand of this great institute, as well as having impact on this planet. So we're very proud of their work. And thank you to everyone who submitted a nomination over the last year or in the past. Keep it up. This is how we find what our alumni are doing. So I guess maybe a question is, how do you get to meet the future alumni that might end up on this screen? So we're bringing in some new traditions, and we'd like to take a moment to talk with you about it and show you a little about something that we're planning, and I want to invite you into the work that we're doing. So imagine this, that in 2 nights, we're going to have several dinners, private dinners at your homes, maybe at a local restaurant, with tables filled with techers, all right? Table for Techers is what we're calling it. It's going to be a new tradition that we will carry here forward, and it's something that really brings forth the community that the Alumni Association is here to exist. And we thought it would be very cool to give you a little insight with that, and then I'll have a little homework for those of us in the room and the many that are online to talk about what this will look like. So let it roll, and here we go.
I'm Jasmine Bryant. I graduated in 1995. I was a chemistry major.
And I'm Chris Bryant. I graduated in 1995 and I was a computer science major. Part of the reason why we got this house was to entertain family. In the Caltech community, it made us family, and it is family to us. And so just by natural extension, an opportunity to have some family over for a dinner was an easy thing for us to say yes to.
Hi, I'm Steve Schell. I graduated in 2001 with an undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering.
My name is Amanda Piapani, and I'm currently a senior at Caltech studying computer science.
Tara Gomez. I graduated from Caltech in 2011 with a PhD in biology.
Matt Hartshorn. I graduated in 2007 with a bachelor's in physics.
I'm Kamal Pulungan, class of 2025 in electrical engineering.
I am Jean Hartshorn, and I graduated in 2011, Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering.
I'm Cesar Bocanegra, Mechanical Engineering, class of 1995, and Fleming House.
My name is Iman Oshik. I'm an undergraduate studying chemical engineering on the biomolecular track, and I am a junior-ish, but I matriculated in 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of years.
So I would like to propose a toast. Thank you all for coming. Please enjoy the meal. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks for having us.
Cheers.
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 Steve.
I was looking forward to good food, good company, great conversation. It's always something that's destined to happen when you're in a group of techers.
I love talking to undergrads.
I brought this thing called Data Match to Caltech. You guys know about this.
Yeah, my friend this year, she was like, oh no, I got matched with my ex.
No! Just being around like-minded people who are ambitious, passionate, and just love what they're doing. It's just been a great experience to be a part of that community.
Oh, you're at Heliogen.
Yeah.
Do you know Zan?
Of course I know Zan.
Yeah,
Zan's in my book club.
Zan is another checker, good friend of ours. Yeah.
No, Steve was at eSolar.
Yeah.
Oh, you're at Eat Solar.
Yeah.
Oh, you know
And
Steve.
I didn't recognize you when we came in.
World,
Beard and laser eye surgery.
It's definitely things are different, but yeah, I was like, oh no, that's Steve Schell. Like I used to work with him. There are a lot of friends that I have who are lifelong friends who were from Caltech, much more so than from high school or from most other parts of my life. That's definitely true.
We love the Caltech family that we have.
ME18A, so the first thermodynamics course. Professor was writing the book as we went. So like each week we would all get like a photocopy of the next chapter, right? Unbeknownst to us, we were actually proofreading and editing the book, and so occasionally we would get these unsolvable problems on the homeworks. Throughout my career, I've always had to face new problems and learn new skills, and Caltech education really created a great foundation for knowing and having the confidence that I can go pick up something new.
My junior year at Caltech, I had to work at the Athenaeum, and they told me to wait on a table. When I got there and I saw who was sitting there at the table, it was Stephen Hawking.
Oh. Wow.
Did you talk to him?
I poured some coffee, and I was so nervous that I think I might have spilled some of it. Any opportunity I get to connect back to my Caltech years, I will take that opportunity to connect back.
There was one time I was coming to meet Chris at Microsoft. I'm wearing a Ruddick t-shirt, right? And he's not answering the phone, and some guy walks up behind me and he's like, Ruddick House? You remember Ruddick House? I'm like, yeah. He's like, I'll let you in. No questions, no questions. Literally, being a Caltech grad opened the door.
Like, it was super cool to talk to the alums and see, how Caltech has changed, how Caltech has stayed the same. Something about it that felt very comfortable and very real.
As an alum, one of the things I've always said since graduating is Caltech remains to this day the hardest thing I ever did.
I remember being in graduate school and feeling like I was in this tunnel where there was never going to be an exit. I really felt, just very, very overwhelmed.
I really liked that nobody was like, oh, Caltech is nice and easy, it'll be super fun. They were like, no, it's hard, but there are things that make it worth it.
Like, you're gonna come out of this feeling like Superman, right? Like, not right away maybe, but eventually you're gonna realize it is this, I don't know, like rite of passage, and then you're in our club.
And definitely what helped me was having others, come and remind me that even though you can't see it now, and it might be miles before you see it, you will get to that ending, right? You will get to that light.
Just hear about these amazing stories from, like, seeing how much Caltech has changed throughout the years. So incredible.
It's just fun to talk with people.
It's always fun seeing some familiar faces and meeting some new ones, especially with current students. So I'm glad that you joined us in addition to the alum. So yeah, thank you so much for dinner.
Our pleasure.
Thank you for dinner.
I would say to another alum who is considering doing this or thinking about doing it, I would say don't do it for Caltech. Do it for the students and your fellow alumni.
It's giving back.
Yeah.
Right?
So that's what we hope you will do at your homes around not only Pasadena, Los Angeles, but throughout the world. 2 nights in July. We're working to gain hosts, and we hope that each and every one of you find a way to do it. And really, there are no rules. You could do it at your home. You might do it at a Pizza Hut. It doesn't matter. You're just going to get together with techers and talk about life, love, and happiness, all right? So it's going to be a very cool thing. Breaking bread is very important in human culture. With that, I will say, we will help you to bring the people to your house. While people sign up, if you raise your hand and say, I'll host, we hope everybody hosts, and then we'll have a chance to bring people to your home near you in your region. Or it might be 10 of you, it might be 25, it might be 2. It doesn't matter. Break bread, have a good time. So look for this. You have a QR code in the program, scan it. You can sign up today, and we're looking for 50 to 100 dinners around the world. All right? Sounds like a good idea? Awesome. Please join us. Thank you so much. And thank you to Sandra for the great work she's doing, also at DAA. Have a great evening. Grab some lunch. Go see the campus, and we'll see you back here at 2. Bye-bye.